welcome to my video. Today we're going to paint a country scene, cottages and fields and a few trees. So get ready to paint. I use a little mister bottle to wet the paper slightly. Just helps the paint move around the paper. Just dampening the sky. For the sky I'm using cobalt blue, the edge of my brush, cobalt blue with some cerulean. Just using the brush on its side to come up to the edge of the clouds. Now I'm just painting the clouds themselves with a little bit of cobalt blue, crimson, bit of yellow ochre mixed in. Going up to the edges of the clouds to soften the edges. Yeah, now I'm adding some yellow ochre to the bottoms just to warm them up slightly. It's a sort of a summery sky, I think. Now this has got a little bit more cerulean in because you want to vary your blue. Keep it interesting, don't keep all your colours the same. A little bit more yellow ochre, going up to the edges of the clouds. Bit more crimson and cobalt, just to make a mauvey colour. Go all the way down to the horizon. Now I'm going to paint the rooftops slightly, just blocking some colour, just to give them a hint of colour to start with. And that's a little bit of raw sienna. Just marking in where the roofs are. Trying to keep soft edges along the top. There we go. Excuse me. Now the distant hills, just marking those in with a bit of cobalt blue. The distant hills behind the trees. Just letting the brush skip over the page, not trying to be too accurate. Painting, that's the shadow side of the barn, so that's okay to paint that in. Leave the white, and the shadow side of the house as well could be painted in. And these are just initial washes, we'll be going over these again later. Now we'll start adding some of the green, the grass in front of the cottages. Just a little bit of cadmium and cobalt blue and a touch of red. Just, use whatever you think looks good, really. Don't get too hung up in mixing colours. Just relax and enjoy it. All the way down to the bottom of the page now. And to make the foreground interesting, we add some darks and greens in. Again, it's various mixtures of cobalt blue, cadmium, a touch of red, making it darker with more blue. We can add a little bit of detail in now with the rigger, just to suggest some branches. This is just an early stage, we'll come back to this again later. It's a great brush, the rigger, really useful brush to use. Branches and trees and stuff. There we go, okay, now we're into the trees. Just with the rigger again, using that to sketch out the branches. Now we're painting in the tops of the trees, the canopy. Just using the side of the brush, various mixes of green, adding blue to cool the colour down slightly. Just skip the brush over, use the side of the brush so it breaks up and you get the sky holes. So, trees aren't, well, generally they're not, but trees aren't generally one solid mass of green. So you want to be able to see through them in places. Just work your way around. There you go, cutting around the tops of the houses, the cottages, sorry. Yeah, just sketching this tree using the rigger again. Just a nice light touch. Like I say, you don't have to paint every branch, just a few will do, just to indicate them. I'll paint the tree in. Same as before, just lightly sketch it in around that, the green, using the side of the brush. Just a nice light touch, so you get that nice broken effect. Now I'm going to do the rooftop. Again, this is just a mixture of burnt sienna and a little bit of cobalt blue. I'm just using a flat brush here because it gets a nice edge. That's it. Now I'm going to add a bit of darker mix to the rooftop. That side's in a bit more shadow, so it's a little bit darker. You've got to remember your paints will dry a lot lighter than they look when they're wet. Now I'm using the rigger to just draw out some shapes, just to indicate the eaves of the cottage. Just using it to draw with, really. Now I'm going to block in the shadows on the cottage. That's using a little bit of cobalt blue, a little bit of cadmium red, and I think just a little bit of yellow ochre, just to grey it out a little bit more. But I just sort of make up, I just sort of experiment with colours, and my palette just mix what you think. You can't go wrong with cobalt blue and for shadows, and a little bit of red, cadmium red, and a little bit of yellow, or worse, but earth yellows to grey it out a bit. Just indicating the windows in places. Moving on to the other roof, the same colour. Excuse me. Just using the rigger to draw the eaves on the cottage. I'm not worrying about being too accurate. This is just a sketch, so it's just it's an exercise. And I think if you're not too fussy, you get a more spontaneous painting. If I slavishly follow every line, I end up with something that looks stilted and. So that's cottage. The shadows are now painted, and it gives them a bit more definition and shape. The little lean-to, just paint that in. Indicate the windows. I'm just dropping the colour in, I'm not painting windows, I'm just, not doing anything really, just marking the paper. There's a little wall that runs along the top here, just in using the same colours I used for the shadows on the house. The distant hills, I want to darken them slightly, so I'm just using a mixture of cobalt blue and a touch of red. Just putting the hills in behind the trees. Okay, let's do some more detail on the trees. Just strengthening the colour again with a bit more green and green to have more shadow, more interest. Again, using the side of the brush, making sure we don't make it look like a lollipop if we can help it. Like I say, a nice light touch is what's needed, just to give it a sense of. You don't want to be too heavy-handed. Not for this painting, anyway. To finish off this tree as well. Do a little bit more. That gives the trees a bit more shape. Okay, we're getting there now. Right, what should we do now? Just finish on make the track look a bit more interesting. It takes your eye more into the painting. Nice dry brush, not too much paint, and we can splatter some paint on there as well. That looks quite good. Splattering's good for getting a good texture. We'll just add a bit more detail up here with the greens, make it a bit stronger. Just slowly building up the detail. Well, it's not detail, is it? It's just blocks of colour, really. Just add a little bit more colour on this wall. Just the same colour as before, cobalt blue, a touch of red and a touch of raw sienna. Some little doorways here, just darken those. Again, the same mixture, just a little bit darker, a bit thicker, a bit richer. And the windows, strengthen those a little bit. Just the roof on the lean-to, give that a bit more definition. You don't want to go crazy here, it's too easy to overdo things, so you've got to. I can be terrible at fiddling sometimes, and I do too much. Okay, the wall needs to be darkened slightly, so on the gate, just sketch that in loosely. Just add some little hedges here for interest, little bushes, small trees, same as before, using the side of my brush, just nice and lightly. And that just indicates some little branches. You can often use your finger to rub a little bit of paint out, just as I did. Bit of texture. Just add some fence posts here. Just using the brush to sketch those in very lightly. You don't have to paint a fence post, just draw a line. It really is simple. When you learn to relax and to not to be too fussy, it's very, very simple. Just adding a little bit more detail to the foreground now, just to finish off. I just feel it needs a bit more to balance this side of the painting, so I'm adding some darker greens. There we go. A bit more interest in the trees and the centres, where the leaves are and are all at the thickest. I think this painting's taken about, in total, it took me about an hour to paint. So watercolour is so quick to paint with, it really is. It's a great medium because it's so quick. And that's why it's fantastic for sketching outside. If you come back, you'll be able to see more of my videos. I'm going to be out painting. Outside painting, which I prefer. Just going to give the buildings, just to warm them up a little bit, the fronts, a little bit of very light wash of raw sienna. Just to warm them up. Helps them sit in the painting, I feel a bit better. A little bit more detail in the foreground. And we're nearly finished. Now you can ask me, you can leave any questions you want, leave any remarks, good or bad, whatever you feel. And or any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Give me a thumbs up, won't you? And subscribe. There'll be more videos to come. Just darkening the shadows a little bit more. And I think that's about it. See, I can't help fiddling. I'm going back and doing more when I probably shouldn't. It's that problem. You just cannot help fiddling and doing more. There we go. I hope you liked the painting, and I hope you enjoyed watching me paint it. Thanks for now.